Well, hey everybody, my name is Jared Malott. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Caliz. This is the Coltist, episode 39, and we're gonna call this the Mike Pryor episode.
Pryor episode.
Mike
Not
Pryor,
not Matt Pryor, Mike Pryor, just to clear things up.
Prior, an Illinois State alum, played for the Colts for 5 years, I believe 87 and 92 is what I saw. Is that right?
Yeah, 87, 92, yeah.
87 and 92, and then played for the Green Bay Packers for 5 years. Long story short, Mike Pryor in 5 years at safety for the Colts had 27 interceptions and what we wouldn't give for some turnovers in the secondary for this team,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, Colts won today at home, defended home turf, beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, final score 34-27. I
Game
saw,
winner to Alec Pierce.
hell yeah, kind of he redeemed himself, did he not? Right,
Yeah.
from a dropped touchdown pass early in his career, right? And then he finally gets his first one today, and it was the game winner.
Yeah.
And it was when we had to have and all that, right?
Yeah, to cap off, he has been amazing these past few weeks, and it
Mhm.
seems like he was like putting on some solid performances, and then he comes back, he just his thing, gets game winning touchdown, just
Mm.
has to do great, for your confidence as a rookie to come in and get the game winner. Like, has to feel amazing.
Yeah,
It's a divisional opponent at home.
in a one-on-one situation, in a third
Yeah.
and long, really didn't have much of a choice. Had to kind of throw it out there and see if you could get a flag, something. And he hung on to it. But yeah, I thought, man, Michael Pittman having himself an afternoon. And then, of course, look, and he has the most catches and yards he's had in his career. So it was a kind of a banner day for your number one wide receiver, right? Reminiscent of like Julio Jones, right? And
Yeah.
then
Just an amazing game.
Matt Ryan, ultimately, I saw right away somebody said, hey, this is a kind of performance that is a legendary performance out of Matt Ryan. Had himself a hell of an afternoon.
Yeah, he just
Spread
looked.
the ball
Yeah.
around. Obviously found pay dirt through the air multiple occasions. Did not turn the ball over. Was not sacked. I saw next gen stats that Matt Ryan broke their system, and um, that he was something like 88% on target on throws. And ultimately, if you look at where all his throws were, he was throwing directly in front of himself within about 10 yards
Yeah.
for about 85% of his balls
Yeah.
from his left to his right. So he throws from hash to hash, but generally like the balls and actually throws for a guy that's a righty, throws a lot of balls to his left. And I imagine that's to break tendency and all that stuff early so you can run the stuff all power side when you want to later in the season. I'm starting to figure him out. I've kind of figured the Colts out. What you do is you line up and like, oh, this play is definitely going to be a run to the left. And the first time you line up like this, you hand that off, and it's this bullshit, weak side run
Yeah.
where we're justifying it with this weak alignment error over here on their right, and that was why we called that run that way. Well, no, what they're doing is they're giving their body now, right? They gave up their running back, and the league's a lot more binary than we think, right? Colts, remember, lost this team on a road a month ago in the rain in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
in a game that nobody attended, and a game that I actually forgot to record a post game wrap for.
Hmm.
Was the Denver game. So it actually been like a couple rough outings in the last 5 weeks, even for the Colts, right? This
Yeah.
loss,
Yeah.
this
To start the season. Yeah.
you lose this game a month ago, 24-0 on the road, and then today, again, find yourselves back against the wall. But I want to point out what I noticed today. It felt like the game turned sooner for the Colts, where like the Colts had momentum. Now they're on the front foot. These drives are, the first two drives,
Yeah.
obviously
Drives are
go
looking good.
punt,
Yeah.
they get scored on, and then they come right back. And it's like you get to the point where everything's going as planned in practice, and you rep, everything's going as planned in practice. And in the game, anything but what is planned happens, right? So you're sort of just dealing with the hand you're dealt in
Yeah.
the game. And I think what the Colts will look back on this season to start with is they weren't as solid up front as they thought on the offensive line, and that it's taken some. Obviously, it took some time off. If you really want to be real about this, they had a lot of time between that game in Denver on Thursday night,
Yeah, and
right?
these
And then
games,
this in
yeah, and the
this game,
game today.
they had a lot of time to get as healthy as possible. One, to get your offensive line as healthy as possible, and to try to get them as much rep and as much time together as you can, so that your quarterback has some sort of clock in his mind of when that ball's got to be out of my hand before I die today, right?
Yeah,
And I noticed after the game, Next Gen Stats said he would getting the ball out in 2.4
yeah,
seconds, and it was
2.4 seconds.
almost
Yeah,
two tenths of a second faster than he had been on average. So he's figuring out his timing where he knows, okay, I have this much time to throw the ball. It's got to be out of my hand, or I'm a dead man. And then I felt like there was a lot less gaff football out of the Colts today, like unnecessary wasted downs. I'll always feel like there are a lot of unnecessary runs. Right. I always feel like, man, you just ran that right into the teeth of their defense. And it
yeah,
just
you
feels
just
like,
wasted. Yeah, you wasted it down.
and it's like you could have kept all the pain off all those people, put the ball somewhere on the fringes, and let them play around out there for a while, get some yards for us, kill some clock. You know what I mean? You're in similar spots either way, whether you run it
Yeah,
or pass it. And in my eyes, a short pass and a screen and all these little things within about 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, these are all basically runs, right? And the idea would be just like to spread the ball around, keep the defense honest. And what the Colts are really doing now, winning 3 of their last 4, now 3, 2-1. um,
yeah,
what they're doing is they're setting up their offense nicely for a Jonathan Taylor return. And
yeah.
what
The offensive
happens
line,
if the
the
offensive
offensive
line
line was
keeps
much better
if
today.
if
Yeah,
it holds up, and then these receivers stay as reliable as they have been, defenses are forced to play you honestly. Instead of giving you very obvious looks where they're very obviously going to try to stop the run because they can't trust you to do anything else with the football here on an early down, right? And I also felt like Frank Reich's play calling was a lot better. But then again,
yeah,
I'll
yeah. I had
always
to agree with
gripe
you on that. Yeah,
where I can see the opportunity to gripe because you gotta is I felt like there was a lot of instances where we had like a first down and plus territory, and you could even see Matt Ryan like hand the ball off and he's walking towards the sideline like, all right, there was your run, and now it's 2nd and 9. You know what I mean? And you're like, hey, we don't have to do that. There could have actually been a play run here instead of just trying to slam this ball down somebody's throat real quick. And again, I'm not talking about in clock kill situations like 10, 12 plus minutes left in the quarter, and we have unnecessary runs when it's like we don't have the running backs for that, right?
yeah,
And we've shown, and again, I'm talking about mismanaging a personnel and the difference between like trying to win a championship and just win a football game. My issue that I would like come away from games like this and seasons like this is what are we willing to sacrifice to win a football game that isn't also us trying to win a championship here, right? So fortunately for the Colts, they get a insane game out of Matt Ryan, and Michael
yeah,
Pittman Jr. had outstanding outings for them offensively. And he again we're able to find Pater and get touchdowns out of Jelani Woods and
yeah.
Alec
34.
Pierce.
Yeah,
So
he
those are
scored
two rookies,
34
right?
points. You know, yeah.
Are scoring big points for you in big time games.
Yeah, Dion Jackson, who is also like he's a sophomore, but he's
Hmm.
basically a rookie because he did not play at all last season.
Right.
So you're banking on 3 guys that are probably not your like main weapons in this offense coming into
Mhm.
the year, and you're getting that level of production from them. That feels good. I felt like this was a great game all around. The defense, they struggled a bit with the running game early. Like, the play where they get the 62-yard touchdown on third
Mhm.
down, third and
Yeah.
short. We got a chance to watch the replay on the broadcast, and we got a chance to watch like the high angle. And it just seemed like, the Colts had 4 guys on the left and the Jags had like 5. And you're like, what is going on here? It was like just some small mistakes like that resulted, in big plays for them. Like that
Yeah.
should probably never happen.
Right.
Other than that, the defense played a really good game. They came in the second half, they played much, much better ball. And the offense, once again, the offensive line had a great game. Deion Jackson had a great game. And the playmakers on offense also had a great game. So you're just like, okay, I start to feel much better about this team. Frank Reich, I believe, I am perhaps his biggest critic. I
Mhm.
I think he called a great game, especially considering, he was without his like your MVP candidate running back, Jonathan Taylor. You're without Naheem Hines, and still, he managed to put up 34 points. He seems to finally, have made the adjustment where, he realized, okay, Matt Ryan needs to get the ball out quick. He can't hold on to the ball for 3-4 seconds. You need to get it out ASAP. Once they did that, and they started going no huddle, finally, many fans were asking, why not go no huddle? And they did. And as a result, Matt Ryan was pressured on just like, I believe the number was 24% of his snaps, which was a season low. So, okay, this is working. We put up 34 points, which is a season high by a lot.
Mm.
You're like, okay, we might be finally finding our footing here in this offense. And the defense, they still played a really good game overall.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, and 3-2-1, we are co-leading the division with the Titans. Jags are now 2-4. So okay, it might be time to start feeling good about this football team once again.
Yeah, I mean, I pointed out in my little video. I don't know if you watch my post game rap videos that like if we really want to talk about the turnaround happened after the Jacksonville game, and that's the first Jacksonville game. That's pretty apparent
Yeah.
now, right? Obviously, you get shut out on the road. You come home the next week and beat the Chiefs at home, and then I get it. Wrapped up in there is that loss to the Titans, but in that time frame, it's like meaningful win. Then
Yeah.
Denver, which again is going to come back and be a meaningful win because again, I'll say it till I sleep. Denver, Mile High Stadium is reportedly one of the hardest places to play because of elevation, and you just run, your breath runs
Yeah.
out faster there, and that's why you see big guys sucking air on the sideline. But yeah, I can actually speak to this to what's going on with the Colts. The Colts, because of the deficiency in their offensive line, they have to scrap any sort of play action and drop back pass from their playbook. I was in this same spot. I watched enough film on tape to tell of a team like we don't have enough time to do
Yeah.
anything other than get that ball out of my quarterback's hand one and keep himself clean. And then when we need to move the pocket, if we want the ball to put the ball in an open area of the field, we need to do that with like an intentional rollout so that the pass rush doesn't zero in on the same spot. He's throwing from the same
Yeah.
spot every time. So fortunately for us, because we ran a very similar offense to what the Colts ran today, a lot of quick screens, a lot of short passes, spreading the ball around and keeping it in front of you. And then, yeah, when you had to have it, you had to have it, you had to go for it. Sure, whatever. But on the whole, by spreading the ball around, getting the ball out quick, you're able to keep your quarterback clean by a byproduct of your play. I think the reason that you don't run this early in the season is one, teams will figure out how to defend it. Two, it's a conditioning thing for your offensive line, which has struggled. So it's like in addition to trying to figure out how to play together and gel, they are also tasked with like a conditioning question, right? When it's going to take some time to gel anyway. And then they're going to work. Probably, I guarantee you, this team's going to look better going forward because, first of all, this is the play style until Jonathan Taylor returns and the offensive line solidifies itself. Like, you're going to see a lot of these quick passes, get the ball out quick, hand it off, or excuse me, you're going to have him hand it off, get it out of his hand quick. No 5 to 7 step drops, none of that shit.
Yeah.
None of that. No
none
more.
of that shit to the we saw none of that shit.
And the thing about it is you really don't need it. It's really taxing on your offensive line. And when you're already thin, it's like, hey, just get the ball out of the box, like, or get it downhill. Let them push. You know what I mean? Like that should be the attitude. And I think today and moving forward, you'll see that. And as the Colts get healthier, right? Like hopefully moving forward, you get Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor back. And then you really got a killer potent offense that can really score really quickly. Because I think those runs that were 3-yard runs for Deion Jackson, just because he's a little slight, are runs that Jonathan Taylor runs through that, right? Naheem Hines sidesteps that. So obviously missing anytime you're having stars not play, right? You're Jonathan Taylor and you're Shaq Leonard. For the Colts to get a division team at home, to get a home win against the division team without your best offensive and defensive players. just full stop. And that's not to take anything away from guys like Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner and or
Yeah,
Kenny Moore,
yeah,
but
and they have
but
yeah,
No Shaq Leonard, no
no
Jonathan Taylor.
JT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
just
still get a division win at home is big.
yeah,
It's a big deal. Um,
just
now,
just a comment on the subject. Like I really
yeah.
like the way the Colts handled the Jonathan Taylor injury. I really like when teams, they don't force their star players back out there if they're not at 100% and you're
Oh, for sure.
risking, him re-injuring his ankle and him making it a long-term injury, just
Hmm.
get him healthy, get him back to 100%. We can, I mean, there is no need to risk, your franchise player health long-term, let him heal, let him get that ankle back to
Hmm.
100%. And that's why, last season watching Shaq Leonard play, when it was evident, you remember he was on one ankle. He just very clearly did not have the explosives. And I was like, just let him sit, let him get that ankle back to
Right.
100%, clear things up with Nelson. The same thing happened with Nelson last season where he had the back issues and he was still out there playing. And last season, I remember thinking like, okay, we have Chris Reed, who has been amazing at left guard. Just let Quentin Nelson, let your franchise player, the guy you're paying your guard, that you are paying 20 million a year to, just
Right.
let him get his body right, get his, body back to 100%, and then you start him. There is no need to play players risking long-term injury.
Oh,
That's
for sure.
my piece. Yeah, that's why I really like, JT not playing.
Yeah. And you get to kind of hang, and Frank Reich gets to hang his hat. I got that win at home. No Shaq Leonard, no Jonathan
Yeah,
Taylor. Hey, we did it the old-fashioned way. Everybody's got to pitch in and contribute. Gonna have to have a hell of a day from your signal caller in order to get it done.
yeah,
And Matt Ryan made it happen. And the thing about it is, this is something that I think you can repeat. So when people come around and ask, like, is this about what you could get out of the Colts moving forward? Yeah, like they could easily score 30 plus on people. They got the bodies to
yeah,
do that. As long as these guys stay healthy and they're again further decimated by injury, right? They can compete with anybody. This team's got enough gas to go forward. And the defense, for this being their worst outing in a month, right? Like they're a month
yes.
between outings like this means they're super consistent for you. They get the Titans next week on the
Titans
road.
coming off yeah, and the Titans are coming off a bye week.
Titans coming off a bye.
Yeah, so this is next week is going to be really tough. It's going to be a real test to see whether, we finally got it right, or
Yeah.
we finally, we could start saying, okay, this is a good football team. But other than that, even if we lose, this was a win where I'm not like against the Broncos and against the Chiefs where we won, but you're like, okay, we won. But against the Chiefs, we won because Chris Jones got the stupid and sportsmanlike conduct
Yeah.
penalty. Their kicker, he missed two very easy, he missed a field goal and an extra point attempt.
Yeah.
And then against the Broncos, you're like, okay, your defense played amazing, but your offense was shit all game long. Like
Yeah.
they couldn't do shit.
Super
This win,
questionable.
yeah, this one is the first win where I'm like, okay, we did deserve to win this game. We were better than the Jacks this game.
Yeah. And I felt
It
like
was not
we
like a win. We
they
were
had to
better.
confirm that. They had to confirm that in the game. And I think it was 7-0 and I just kind of felt it. And I was like, "Oh, I think the tide kind of turned." Like I don't think it keeps getting worse from here.
Yeah,
And then it was just super close and then obviously the Colts went ahead by one there kind of late and it was like now you can kind of turn on the volume on the television, sit down and listen to the game instead of pacing around my house wondering what the hell is going on with this team. But once they went ahead, I was like, I think they've convinced themselves they can win this game. And then when the Colts got the ball back late, 2 minutes left, I'm just like, Matty Ice is the wrong guy. You know what I mean? He's the
yeah,
right guy for the job, but he's like the wrong guy to give the ball to because he's absolutely capable of going down there. And obviously they got put in a precarious spot. And I said in my post game wrap, I don't know, again, I don't know if you saw that, but like I said in my post game wrap, the only gripe I have about that last little bit of that game there is if you think about what do I want to keep from happening, a negative play, you can't tell me that lining Matt Ryan up under center with the running back 7 yards deep is the play.
yeah,
I think that in that same spot, the reason I'm winning that game, I'm beating Frank Reich, is that I'm just going to hand that ball off out of pistol or shotgun, like I have the whole game, and just tell him to get downfield if you can, and just keep it in the middle because Because if we get good yards, then we'll try to take a field goal. Otherwise, we're gonna have to try to keep moving the ball. But instead, they line Matt Ryan up under center like they're gonna run a stretch play. And I think Kelly stepped on his foot, which is it happens. Mistakes happen, missteps happen, things like that. It's just I think it's avoidable by play call. And so
Yeah.
I just think I'm not 40 seconds left in a football game.
Yeah.
Need to get into field goal range. And it's first down, and my opponent has 2 timeouts, and I know I need you to use those timeouts so that I can manage the end of the game. I just don't know that lining my quarterback under center and running the stretch play is the play I want there.
Yeah.
If I'm really, if I'm thinking about it, like I'd rather run something out of the eye, downhill with a
Yeah.
fullback, trying to get plus yards out of this. I that's my gripe. But again, I wouldn't have put my quarterback under center there because there's just too many things that could go wrong that result in a negative
Yeah.
play, right? The defensive tackle splits your defenders and nabs your guy's ankle anyway. Yeah, so I'd just rather line up, hand it off downhill there. But it can't be unhappy. It felt like it was going to happen, right? This wasn't a surprise. This was a game where I was like, I felt like they turned the corner early. They hung on, and then they got themselves an opportunity. Up, got the ball back late. Need to get into the field goal range to win the game.
To win the game. Yeah.
So and they get close enough, have to take a shot and capitalize. And I think it kind of shocked Jacksonville when they did that. I don't
Yeah.
think they actually expected them to throw the ball toward the end zone there. Kind of caught them off
Yeah.
guard.
Yeah. And I really like, watching Alec Pierce be such a talented cornerback in Shaq Griffin, who I really respect, and he's a really
Mhm.
good cornerback. Watching Alec Pierce, just outright beat him several times throughout the game, you're like, okay, this guy is a baller. He might
Yeah.
not be the most consistent player this year because he's a rookie and he's
Oh
still
yeah.
learning. There's a curve. I don't expect him to get like 60 yards and a touchdown every single game. I know he's going to have some tough games here and there
Oh
where
sure.
he's still learning.
Yeah.
But overall, you have to feel good about the guy. He's a really good guy. And it's just, you go out of this game feeling much, much better about this team. And that's, in my opinion, what it's all about. You're not, okay, this was lucky win. We got lucky once again. We still suck. You come out of here saying like, okay, we can go toe to toe with anyone. This offense, when they get going, they can be really good. This defense can do some really nice things.
Mhm.
So overall, just a really great win.
Yeah.
For the
And
Colts
it
today.
gives you confidence. You get anybody back, it just adds to your firepower. And again, like I said, I'll fully admit I'd been kind of like down on the Colts. But then, like I said, you get a win like this, convincing win, and then all of a sudden you look back. The Colts have won 3 of their last 4. Like you said, they're atop of their division, shared with the team that they traveled to play this week. And I think they got plenty of gas going into that game. And like
Yeah.
again, I get it that I'm repeating myself, but I'm just get excited about getting anything back, right? Getting in any players back from injury is what I mean. Any Naheem Hines, Jonathan Taylor, Shaq, any of them, and anyone else, right, that was injured and didn't play.
Yeah.
And you just feel a lot better about that. How do we feel about the Titans overall?
To be honest, they surprised. Yeah, I certainly did not expect them to go out and get those 3 consecutive wins. They won against the Raiders, and what was last week? What team did they beat last week? They won against the Commanders. They won like,
Yeah,
did you get a chance to watch the game against the Commanders? It was down to the last play.
yeah,
Like Carson Wentz reached I believe it was inside the 5-yard line, and he threw the interception, which was, probably the most Carson Wentz thing to do.
yeah.
All those 3 wins, they are just one play away from not winning those. And as I pointed this out earlier on this week in the Discord chat among the Stampede Blue staff members, the Titans have perhaps, the toughest 7-game slate, like mid-season, where they play and they don't have a bye week. Having an early bye week, in my opinion, is really a bad thing, because you want to have your bye week, in my opinion, later on in the season to get your team healthy once again and refocus.
Yeah,
But they
absolutely.
face, they have this 7-game slate where they face, the Chiefs, then the Broncos, then the Packers. And Chiefs, Broncos and Packers, I know they are just not as good as advertised, but they are still really dangerous teams.
Yeah,
Then
for
they go
sure.
up against the Bengals, the Titans, the Eagles, the Jaguars, and then the Chargers. So that's a really tough
And
like
that's
seven
after
game
they play
slate.
the
Yeah.
Colts.
Yeah. And they have Colts, Texans, and then they have that 7 game stretch where you're like, okay, this is a 7 game stretch where you're going against potentially, 6 playoffs teams
Right.
and a dangerous team in Jacksonville who they have some talent. They can do some damage. They're not a bad team.
Right.
You're like, okay, it's going to get tougher for them to win some games.
So yeah,
That's the thing. Yeah.
yeah. So that's what
No, yeah.
when I look at this game, they got ESPN analytics says the Tennessee wins about 55% of the time. So here's what I could tell you about that historically. Historically, the home team wins about 53% of the time. So ESPN analytics gives the Tennessee about a 2.5% increased chance beyond what the standard home field advantage is of about 3% of winning the game. But again, like you said, they've just got such a mountain ahead of them that it is really easy. Like I always joke that if us laymen are pointing it out, then they see it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, I think the saying is sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Um, Tennessee is about to be the nail. For a lot of teams, they're just going to get to have a really nice game against a team that just doesn't have a lot of gas in the tank.
Yeah.
And the reason, and I don't know so much like Colts go down and get a road win, and that's 4 out of 5 and looking pretty nasty. Like Colts could potentially be 4-2-1 and solo in front of the AFC South and not
Yeah.
looking back real early in a season, and then it looks real good, and you're kind of really wondering what the ceiling is for the team. So I would always want to pump the brakes and say, it's a tough to win in the road.
Yeah.
Um,
Opponent coming off a bye week. Next week, is again where I'm not mad if we lose. Like I would get if we lose that game because we are going off on the road against an opponent that is
yeah,
coming off a bye week. That is always, a difficult situation to be in.
yeah,
So it's not like those, like the game against the Texans where you're like, okay, you have to win this. You're going off against a much less talented roster.
right.
So even if we lose against the Titans, I still really like our chances to get the division.
Mhm.
Like it's not a game where I'm saying, okay, we have to win this one or we are basically, out or very far away.
Mhm.
This was probably this one and the game against the Broncos last week. Those were the 2 games where I'm like, okay, you have to win this one probably to like still be in the hunt. It's still really early on in the season to be out or be in.
Yeah.
But the one against the Titans is one that I'm not mad if we lose that one. Like that's a game you could very realistically drop.
Yeah, it's just part of you're going to get their best while they're healthy. And I will say got to commend the rest of the AFC South. You really did get the best of Jacksonville and Jacksonville. Houston probably did get the best of Houston there when they get you in to tie them in
Yeah.
overtime. And then arguably I'd say Tennessee already got us by touchdown playing just a couple weeks ago. But
Yeah.
now Colts go in there, and I think with a head full of steam and a lot of confidence. And I think I was just looking. ESPN says the Titans are 2-point favorite at home, and the rule of thumb is the home team's supposed to get 3 points. So I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I'm confident the Colts are going to win. I'm just saying like I'm not off the Colts just because
Yeah.
a trend. Like I'm not playing that. There's no such thing. That is not real. Games are individual instances, and the outcome's not predetermined. And there's a very realistic chance the Colts have sort of turned a corner on people, and then it's real hard to
Yeah.
pass rush somebody when a ball's out and you're going to have to hit them anyway and eat penalty all game long because Matt Ryan will step into a throw and just eat the hit. You know what I mean? And now,
Yeah. That really impressed me about him. There was a play, you remember the play where he hits Mike Pittman Jr. Like I think he doesn't even see the guy. Like he just knows he's going to be there and he's going through his progressions. And it's like he gets the ball off with a defender like right in his chest with the arms wide open, and he gets the ball off, and I'm like, okay, no, that's quarterback. Like
yeah,
that's why we signed the guy. Like he's good.
Yeah.
He's a good NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and the thing about it is so far this year, he's never been the problem. He's always been part of the solution though. Like
Yeah,
when you're beating these teams, it's because Matt Ryan's having himself a day, and it took a day like that with your whole backfield missing, and you're down to guys off the street. No offense to guys like Deion Jackson and Philip Lindsay, but comparatively to Nyheim Hines and,
yeah,
and Jonathan
Jonathan
Taylor,
Taylor. Yeah,
these
of
are guys
course.
these are guys you wouldn't even keep on your practice squad. But it's definitely nice to not only get a level of production out of your running backs is appreciable, but then also to get these rookies to stand up, play well. And I think our very own Brett Mock had kind of pointed that out. Like, hey, before I think he had said something about before this game's even being played, look at all these players that are very young that are also playing a heavy role as
Yeah,
either starters or just getting a lot of snaps. Thinking about Bernard Raymond and Nick Cross, right? And then
Rodney
today,
Thomas.
yeah, Thomas, and then also today to have a Paris Campbell, a guy who
Yeah,
you want to have a lot of involvement and that you want to see him play at his highest levels. But then to have Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, and Michael Pittman
yeah,
Jr. all two or young 2 years or less in the league, all for them to have big games and a big win at home is it can do a lot for your confidence. And I don't know how a team approaches these games where you don't have the tenor, where some games are must win and just some games are you kind of don't care. I don't know that teams do that. I think they literally just trying to win every game you can because you never
yeah,
know. Um, so yeah, I definitely think that there's a possibility you go out there, you go down to Nashville and catch their best, coming off a lot of rest. But
yeah,
there's also the vein of thought that says like Tennessee had a lot of time off and they still don't have weapons. Like it's not like they
yeah,
they got better offensive weapons in their off week. And it's like you said, it can be a trap where you get lulled into thinking that, yeah, we're ready to handle a Colts team like this. And I just think there's a difference between I practiced this week and we had a game last week, like a
yeah,
division game last week. So they're still like fresh off that contact. And I think that there's a chance here for the Colts to catch the Titans kind of sleeping
yeah,
where
perhaps, yeah,
they are the healthiest they're going to be the rest of the season. And we're going to come in there and give them our best game. And then you come in there and it's like, well, about that. You know what I mean? Like the Colts look like then like I said, again, I hate to feel like that because I feel like I've also been on the opposite end of the spectrum this year where I'm like, I don't understand how this coaching staff's going to keep their job. And now I'm wondering like, is there a chance if they continue this where it looks smart, right? Where, oh, look, we're playing smart football now. You know what I mean? That's really what it felt like today,
yeah,
except for some rinky-dink runs. Um, and some simple stuff that can be fixed. I felt like on the whole they were up and down the field. They probably had 500 yards of offense. They had to, right? I think they said Michael Pittman had career high in catches and yards.
yeah,
I thought it was career high completions for Matt Ryan and
yeah. For Matt
also
Ryan, it was yeah career high.
and organizational.
Yeah,
It was
so
the
they
most.
had 438 34 yards, 10 out of 15 on third down.
Oh
That's
yeah,
also a number I really like. Yeah.
that's really good.
So yeah, overall, you have to feel good about the passing offense this game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Everybody was touching the rock and being productive. Everybody, 3 different people hit
Yeah,
pay dirt. And everybody's young, and these are people that you expect to be Colts for years to come too.
yeah. So
That's what's
it's
important. So, this is like a foundational win,
yeah,
right? That's what I would call like. Again, I'll always say like when we look back on the season, I will say like, look, the Colts went down there to Jacksonville and got their shit beat, and something happened in that locker room, and they turned that shit around. And the next week they came in and they got a tight win over Kansas City. Excuses out the door, right? And then obviously you already lost this team, but then you got that weird win in Denver again. And I told you that's a crazy place to go in and win. And then, like I said, to back that up with like a resounding division win
Yeah,
in like the same
the
month,
very yeah,
that's a great month for the Colts on the whole. And now you go down there and avenge an earlier loss, just like you did the week prior. So the Colts get back-to-back revenge weeks, right? And I think that's a lot of motivation for a team that is playing well at a high level without its
yeah,
best, right?
yeah. Without their two best players, and, it's
Yeah.
like you said earlier. It gets you thinking. Like, if we can't do this without our best player on defense, our best player on offense, you have to start thinking like, how are we gonna look once they return like fully healthy, with
Right.
a proper offensive line, with the defense now established? Just the possibilities are endless. You start feeling like, oh, and JT, he could very realistically return next week. I don't know what is the case with Shaq Leonard. Sorry, I don't know how much time a broken nose can take to heal.
Hmm. Well,
He
I
was
saw he
not.
wasn't going to get surgery, so
No,
uh,
I saw I believe he got surgery like this
on
week.
his nose.
Yeah, for the
Oh,
broken nose. So I don't
okay,
know how
okay.
much
Then I
time
don't know
that
anything
can.
about that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, he had surgery on the broken nose, and from what I'm reading right now, it also gave him a concussion. It was in week 4. Head coach Frank Reich said they haven't made a decision on whether to put Leonard on the injury reserve list yet.
Hmm.
So that's that. Perhaps not gonna be back in the next like at least 2 to 3 games, perhaps.
Oh, I wonder why
So
they didn't just IR him short-term IR.
yeah, yeah, just perhaps there's a chance he might be ready to play. Perhaps in the next 2 to 3 games.
Maybe.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. But it's not like the Colts are struggling without him, because Bobby Okereke and Zaire Franklin, they are having a great season. Like, those are two players I really like. And
Yeah.
EJ Speed, he had the fourth down stop today in the
Mhm.
speed option Trevor Lawrence ran, and he read that perfectly, and he held on to Trevor Lawrence and then managed to get the tackle in on I believe it was James Robinson with the ball that time. A key fourth down stop later on in the game. So you're like, I feel good about the linebacking corps without Shaq Leonard. But
Yeah.
of course, you want to have him out there. It's not like you don't want him, but you're like, okay, we can do just fine without him.
Yeah. And I think that the Colts are kind of learning as a team that they've got to play with who's here, right? And you got to make plays with who's on the field and ready and
Yeah,
available for you, right? The best ability is availability. So yeah, Colts coming off rest, get a team, get an opportunity for a revenge game. Like I said, revenge games back to back weeks. Why not?
yeah,
You're gonna be the best. You got to beat the best your division's got, and then like I said, you win that game next week, you're ahead in your division. You're on top early, and
yeah,
it's just like being in an MMA fight. You want to be on top early. You get on top of somebody early. They never quite get their legs underneath them. You have the opportunity to put them away. You know, anytime it's a 17 or more point lead early in a football game, or 24 or more point game late in the third or fourth quarter, you know that game's over. At
yeah,
least unless it's the fucking Patriots. But yeah, I think that's a good place to drop her off. What do you think?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This has
That's
been Jared Malott with Mateo Caliz, my good friend. It's always good to see you, brother.
yeah,
It's
always good to see you.
episode 39.
The Mike Pryor
The
episode.
Mike Pryor episode, Prior, the Illinois State safety
Along, yeah,
for the Colts, 5 years, had 27 interceptions. How about that? What we wouldn't give for some picks. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the games this week. We'll see you after next week's game. Go
yeah.
Colts.